Everybody, welcome back. This is XL 10 Minute Leaders. My name is Graham Brown. We're all about 10 minutes into the lives of inspiring people, motivating people, people that have done stuff from all different parts of the world. It may be technology, it may be business, it may be society. Today we're heading to Canada to welcome my next guest, Riley Oickle. Riley, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, Graham. Appreciate you having me on.
It's great to have you here. Did I pronounce that right? I know we were chatting off air there, but I forgot to ask. Oikos, is that right?
You did, yeah. No, that's excellent. That's the one.
Which part of the world does that originally come from, the word oiko, the name?
Yeah,
Do you know you trace that at all?
I did. Yeah. So I'm actually from Nova Scotia, so like kind of Canada. But originally, it came from like a bit of like German and then also British a bit as well. So
Okay.
yeah,
It's an interesting mix.
yes,
Great to have you here. So we're going to talk about a number of different things today, but mainly focused on real estate, how things are going, and also a bit of your story as well. So we've got 10 minutes to kick off. Are you ready?
let's do it.
All right. We're going to start now, 10 minutes. First question to Riley. What does it say on your business card?
It says CEO of Riley Oickle Investments.
Okay. And what kind of investments do you engage in?
Yep, specifically real estate. So real estate investing is my main industry. Yeah.
Private, commercial, any
All,
specialization?
yeah, so it's all residential, multifamily properties that we buy. Yeah.
Okay, great. And what's the scene like at the moment on your part of Canada? Because I know Toronto for the longest time had the biggest real estate bubble, right?
Yeah, no, it's definitely been inflated quite a bit, and we're expecting it to come down potentially here in the future. Things definitely can't continue the way that they are, but at the same time, just naturally with the influx of the population here, there's a lot of people coming in, and there's kind of a shortage of housing. So we actually just passed a bill here earlier on this year that you can put like a secondary dwelling unit on the back of your property. So that just kind of goes to show like that the market is still sustainable. Like I don't think that there's necessarily a bubble, but there, it certainly is appreciating year over year quite a bit right now. Yeah. So Toronto, we saw over a 20% increase in 2020.
Wow, still going strong. What do most people get wrong about your craft being real estate?
That's a really good question. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, like a lot of people think that real estate investors are kind of cold, money hungry. That's just kind of like the stereotype or the stigma that I've heard a good amount. I'm definitely trying my best to kind of slash that and not fit that mold. But that's probably the one thing for sure that people get wrong quite a bit.
So are you an investor in the sense you're buying and selling, flipping properties, or you're a landlord? What are you developing?
Yeah, great question. So I actually invest into multifamily properties, and I'll partner with people to go and actually buy properties with them. So yeah, like I'm technically kind of a landlord, but I don't do any like property management. So like the tenants never really get to communicate directly with me. They communicate with the property management company. My main day to day is essentially just meeting with partners that want to fund properties, and as well kind of managing like the renovation team, the property management team, and all the kind of bookkeeping, the administration.
So you're effectively probably sourcing deals for investors as well and helping them do the due diligence on those properties and
Yes.
managing it on the other side.
Yeah,
Okay.
I do kind of all the active work, start to finish, like finding the property, renovating it, doing the property management, bookkeeping. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, what I found, I mean, I invest in property as well, and in the UK, or did years ago. I haven't lived in the UK for some time. I still got property there, but I tended to find that a lot of people went into property and they sort of chased the off plans, as they called them, the new developments, because they had, some would be in your context, ice hockey players just bought it in this complex. And the UK, or some footballer just bought in this complex. And, these, they show you the marketing suite where you get the mini model and all that stuff. And people say, oh, this is fantastic. I'll buy it. It will go up 30% in a year. And they throw crazy money at it. They don't realize there's like a $2,000 maintenance fee on this thing every year. And those kind of deals are the tough ones. The real money's to be made in family properties or multi-tenanted ones. Like if you know what you're doing, those are by far more effective yields. I don't know how it is in your part of the world, but that's what I found. That was like 20 years ago as well. So that hasn't changed as a fundamental. What do you see?
What do I see? I think it's all about like diversifying, and people hear the word diversification all the time when it comes to investing. And usually what that means is like maybe one or two properties and one or two like stock options or investing in different funds. What I kind of mean by that is specifically within real estate in your portfolio, making sure that some of the properties or the strategies that you're using are more about cash flow, so money in the bank like this month that you can actually spend. Because usually like real estate investments are like long term, they're 10, 15 years. And so that's excellent for appreciation and for your equity. So usually multifamily properties don't cash flow a ton. So it's kind of more of a long-term play. Whereas like we also have Airbnbs in our portfolio. So we buy properties with the intention to Airbnb them. And like one just regular single family property could cash flow $50,000 in a year, and that's profit, right? So that's money in the bank. So that's pretty excellent. Whereas like that takes a $4 million apartment building to usually generate $50,000 in cash flow. A $500,000 single family could also do that too, if done right.
Yeah, knowledge. That's what it's about. So what do you think you could teach our audience in the next 2 minutes that could change their business, personal lives for the better? Bear in mind, you only got 2 minutes, so it's
I'll give it a shot.
expectation.
Yeah.
But give us a snippet. What could you?
Sure. On a daily basis, I have conversations with people that they're wanting to get started, and this is kind of what happened here for myself as well with my friends and my family. When I started buying, they were asking me this kind of loaded or canned question, like, "What do I do to buy my first property?" And so that's kind of why I help a lot of people right now to buy their first property. But ultimately, the number one kind of hurdle that everyone kind of gets stuck on is the financing and the mortgage hurdle, along with just proof of funds for your down payment. The truth of the matter is, it doesn't matter what your financial situation is. For myself, I had student debt. I had very little money in the bank when I bought my first one, and I partnered with someone that had a mortgage and they had money. And I just essentially came in and I was doing all of the work. I did the renovation, did the property management. So it doesn't matter what your situation is. Get really good at the things like finding great deals, doing the property management, doing the renovation, and people will honestly give you money in a mortgage, and that will help you get to that first income property. And the second one's 10 times easier. The third one's 100 times easier. So just go through the first one for sure, because I think that's where a lot of people get stuck, is just with that very first property.
Seems like you place an emphasis on networking as well in property.
Yeah, networks are extremely important, I think, in any industry, like whatever you're doing for work, even more so like for real estate, for sure. Yeah.
May I ask, how old are you now, Riley?
25.
25, because my next question is your 20-year-old self, but it's like not that long ago. So what would you advise yourself? So let's say Riley from 5 years back. When did you buy your first property, Riley?
22. Yeah, it was
22. Okay, so you hadn't yet bought a property. At age 20, were you interested in property? Was it a thing for you back then?
Yeah, 20, I started kind of like doing some research. 21, I started doing a lot more research. I started working for someone full-time in the industry. And then 22, I finally bought the first one.
Okay. So in the time between being 20 and now, what do you know now that you can kind of impart as your wisdom to the younger Riley?
Yeah, I think don't get caught up on like material items. I, was spending a lot of money on clothing and just like nice things to like impress people. And I just don't really care about other people's opinions now, to be honest. And I think that was the big weight off my back. Like that's a lot of weight that people can carry around day to day when they're caring so much about other people's opinions and trying to impress people that they don't even like themselves. That I think is the biggest issue that we all have to get over as humans. And for me, between 20 and 25, that's a big distinction for sure. So I wish I could tell myself that back then.
Yeah, that's great advice as well. I mean, many people twice your age are still yet to learn that, right?
Yeah.
And that's obviously the challenge, isn't it? It's just financial education about this stuff is so important, isn't it? Like not just how to build portfolios, build wealth, understanding what an asset is, understanding that a car is not an asset, for example. And people saying things like, oh, the car's a big investment. It's not an investment. if you look at it, it's a liability, right? As soon as you buy that thing, the money's going down. And just having that kind of financial education, which we're not taught at school, like credit cards, what exactly is APR or AER or whatever they call it now? People don't know this stuff. So where did you learn? What would you suggest to people as some sources of learning? I know obviously your website, we're going to talk about that in a minute. Books out there, sources of information, it's just getting educated about money and how it works.
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I've thought about this a few times. I'd love to just go into the academic system and just kind of revamp it, but I don't think I have that control to be able to do that. And I believe a lot of people that have done well, especially if they've been on this podcast, like usually they're making good money. And I believe that, like a lot of us probably have much to say around the topic of like the education system and learning these different calculations with mathematics before you even learn how to write a check is a bit flawed for sure. Ultimately though, like what is in our control right now is just be curious. Like, when education stops in, high school and university, don't stop learning. And I think as long as that's your mindset, like always being curious, you're going to end up just discovering things. And in terms of resources, for sure, if you're looking to learn more about like just financial literacy in general, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki is just like a gateway, I think, into a lot of this. So that's an excellent book. Even just listening to podcasts like this, to be honest, with real people doing real shit, if I can say that on the show, but just real people. And if it's YouTube, if it's podcasts, whatever it might be, that's what I really do believe will help you long term. For me, it was like, even if I was at the gym or driving, just constantly listening to someone that knows more than me on the topic. And that's always the next best step. So as long as you're able to take that next best step every day, then you'll make it for sure.
Great advice. Yeah. That's Riley Oickle. Let's talk about where people can find out more about you. Where do we go?
Certainly, yeah. So you can go to my website. It's RileyOickle.com. So just my first, last name.com. There's a lot of great blog posts there that we write around just real estate investing for beginners. So if you want to learn more about how to get started, there's excellent blog posts in there written every day. And then you can also find me on Instagram. So it's at Riley Oickle Investor. And on a weekly basis, they were putting out a lot of content and just trying to educate people that are trying to buy their very first income property.
Fantastic. Everybody, that is Riley. Sorry, got the two names joined together. Riley Oickle. Thank you so much for coming on the show today and sharing with us a little bit about your journey, your insight, and your craft as well, and sharing that knowledge with the listeners and your people as well about getting them up that ladder. And you really it's about self-empowerment, isn't it? And giving them education and knowledge and, giving them the skills they need to take control of their own financial situation as well. So thanks for coming on and sharing that with us today.
It was a pleasure. Thanks, Graham.